You're listening to Back to the Roots podcast with myself, Mike Klein, and Brian Wood. And today we're sitting down with Sam Dobson and Chris Hofner. We're sitting in Chris Hofner's office here in Mount Ola, North Carolina.
Close enough.
Close enough. And we are going to have a conversation about what they've got going on with their organic operation. So thanks, guys, for joining us today.
Thanks for coming down, so we didn't have to go to frigid Ohio. This is great.
On a 20-degree morning.
It's actually 18 at home.
Is it 18 at your house and
Right.
20 here?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's a lot of difference.
So how long have you guys been organic?
Well, I think we started in 2007, I think. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, you started shipping milk in 2007.
Yeah.
Okay.
February 2007.
Okay.
Yeah, we were the second ones on the truck.
Okay.
The
Who was
Parkers.
the first?
Rick Parker.
Oh, Rick Parker was.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And
then we came on in 2014, I believe.
Sounds
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Spring of 2014, we came on the truck.
And how many total organic dairy farmers would be here in North
5
Carolina?
now.
Only 5.
And going to be 6 in this month, right?
Supposedly.
Yeah. Going to have a 6th one.
Get his milk barn done.
Yeah.
And how big of a dairy state would North Carolina be? Do you know how many total dairies there
I
are?
think we're like ranked 33 or 35 in the nation. I always see that in like Progressive Dairy Magazine.
Yeah.
We're,
I think we got 200, right? There's only 200 dairies.
if that many now.
So-
Okay. And are they mostly large dairies, or are you?
Well, that's the direction the ones that are in business are heading.
Average herd's about 200 and some now, I
sounds
think.
right.
We've got, I'm from Iredell County, and we're the largest dairy county in the state. I think I thought 57, but apparently in the last year, 20's gone out. We're down to 36. And where we live, and I think either you guys or Randolph's number 2, and then I think Rowan's 3. So, but I mean, really, there's probably 10 counties in the state that even have a dairy farm
Yeah.
now.
There's
Out
only 9
100.
of us in Rowan County now.
Yeah. So
And
it's,
one of them's a research station.
it's definitely dying industry here. But I mean, there's some big ones though. Some of those guys, we got guys that milk 2,000 that's going to 6,000 and 500 to 1,500, and some of the bigger ones are getting bigger. But
so the trend here is the same trend that's all over the nation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And, it's mostly about economics. I mean, I can understand the reason they do it. I wouldn't want to do it. I wouldn't want to do it at all. But
Is that why you switched to organic?
yeah, well, so we had 3 options. So I bought the herd from my dad, 12, how long? I don't know. I have to ask my wife. I don't even know how many years I've been married. So we did it the first year so we got married in February, and we bought a herd of cows in November. So we went super in debt right off the bat. And we were in it for a couple years, and then decided that we were either going to have to get big, get out, or do something different. And so we decided to try the different direction first. So we did it. We transitioned our heifers, and we had 2 groups of cows, and we can't do that nowadays. But we had a conventional herd and an organic herd.
On the same facilities?
Yeah, 2 different milk tanks, 2 different feed
man.
troughs,
Jeez.
2 different mix wagons. It was not fun, to say the least. But we made it work. Got rid of a bunch of conventional cows, and that's how we did it. So and then we got hit with the quota right after that. So that put a hurting on us. But that's
And
a
this
different
was
story.
in 07, 08.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And were you grazing?
Oh yeah, we've been grazing forever.
Okay.
For a long time. Now we're a lot more intense now than we used to be, but we've always been grazing. And we had when I bought the herd and all that, when we were conventional, we were 28,000 pound herd average. So with grass and BST and the whole 9 yards, 3 times a day. And we've definitely changed what we're doing for sure. But anyway.
And now, how many cows are you milking today?
Oh, only 88 right now. We'll get up about 130 or so
Okay.
in the winter.
And
Or
where
late
were you
winter.
at when you switched to organic?
About the same.
Okay.
About the same.
So do you do a lot of fall freshening?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We got to have them all bred by June, no matter what. If they ain't bred by June, you ain't getting them bred again until November.
Because of the heat.
Because of the heat. You got to have them pregnant. They have to be. So we try to get everybody calved in. You know, I don't want them calving much later in May, but just, you know, get them bred back. That's the goal. So, and with the $3 up, like we were supposed to be getting in the winter, it has been working, but anyway, that's a different story.
Yeah, the less milk during the winter premium is definitely a whole different conversation we could go.
That's right.
Go down. So Sam, how many cows do you milk?
We stay in the 90s, around 100. Sometimes we do a lot more fall calving, so late summer we'll get down a little less than that. And we were similar to Chris. I mean, we've always grazed, and that was my first attraction to organic dairying, is because we got into the grass-fed beef business, and you know, I was going to Whole Foods and Earth Fare and different places where we were marketing beef, and I just kind of would hear the conversations about how people were really interested in grass products. And so I started thinking, well, you know, there's a marketing strategy. We could certainly do this with milk too, because I remember speaking on a panel at Davidson College, which is down here near Charlotte, and getting on grass-fed beef, and kind of introduced myself as a dairyman that had gotten in the beef business. And then when I got done with the panel, that all the students was up there wanting to talk, and they were all asking where they could get our milk. They weren't, nobody was asking about where the beef was. They were wanting to know where our milk. I was like, well, who knows where you can get our milk? It just goes to a processing plant and then delivered wherever. But
you didn't even know what label it was.
No, not really. I mean, it was just kind of, you know, pull it all together at a big plant. I think it was going to a pet plant then. And so that kind of triggered my interest. And so, you know, first thought was, well, where can I get a premium for grazing with dairy? Well, that, you know, there really is no options there in this part of the country. And it was either processed. Yeah.
You mean conventional,
right?
Yeah.
And so I was either going to have to process our own milk, which I just have at the time had no interest in from a capital standpoint or labor standpoint. And so you go to researching, you know, the organic, or I learned about Organic Valley being here in North Carolina, having producers here. And I got it with Chris and George Teague was the two I communicated with a lot, and just kind of learned about it, and like, you know, found out that grazing was a big part of the being certified organic, that so much of your dry matter intake had to come from grazing. And I was like, well, this totally makes sense for us, because we were in the same situation. We were either going to have to milk a lot more cows or try to figure out a niche. And I never liked I just really didn't like where the conventional system was going. I mean, fuel at the time was really going up. Fuel was high. It seemed like we were having to burn more and more of it. Just never liked chemicals, never liked just that whole world. I just felt like you was always on a hamster on a wheel, and having to go along to get government programs at no-till, and just, I don't know, just didn't feel like you had any freedom to farm the way you felt like the right way to farm. And there sure wasn't really emphasis on grazing. And so we found a home, you know, with Organic Valley, and just kind of was able to do things like we want to do it, and how we feel, well, we know it's the right way to do it, and it's something that the consumer takes pride in, and their interest is there. So that was just the right fit for us, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So did you know Chris before you started being interested in organic?
Kinda.
He was truck broke down up
there. Right.
A wheel fell off our duck.
Right.
We hauled chicken litter from close to where they're at, and a wheel come off the truck. Somehow or another, we ended up at their place. So.
Yeah, and I knew of them, and you were at State when I was there briefly.
Yeah, that's
kind of knew of Chris.
We probably drank some beer together.
Yeah,
don't
right,
remember.
And don't remember it. And then, and we knew the Teagues. My grandfather and Franklin Teague, George's daddy, were good friends, and Dad and I knew George. Dad and George were on the SUDA board together. And so we knew the Teagues pretty well. So, and knew Charlie Payne, who's also on our route. I knew Charlie.
Yep. Or you know his
since
daughters?
I was a kid. No, they were younger than me. But Charlie coached the middle school football team, and so I knew Charlie. Chris is always like Facebook stalking and stuff.
So your herd is about the same size now that it was when you were conventional?
It's exactly the same. Yeah. In North Carolina, we have these threshold laws, 100 cows, and you have to build a lagoon and do all this stuff. So we always tried to stay under those threshold laws. And now, yeah, that's a whole other topic. But so, where we go from here, we'll see. But I mean, I feel excited that I'd be willing to consider growth now. When we were conventional, I just was more thinking about a way out than anything. I just didn't really feel like at our size that long term we could be competitive enough. That's how we got into grass-fed beef. We felt like we needed something on our farm to diversify, because it was just harder and harder for 100 cow dairies to sustain. How many families can it sustain? And I don't know if it can sustain one well now. It probably can one with one help or something, but you couldn't. My dad's still active in the farm. I was coming back from college. My grandpa at the time was still living and active on the farm. So really there was 3 generations of us there, and we had one guy helping. And we had to do something. I mean, it just was no way 100 cow dairy was going to spread around, even with a low cost production system like we had. So we had land that we were making hay, and hay bales were rotting at the edge of the field. And I met a guy, Jamie Ager. We did ag leadership class at NC State, and he was doing a kind of a direct market, pork, beef, lamb at the time, eggs, to like farmers markets in Asheville. And we roomed together in that class and just kind of got talking and said, well, if we can get milk out of grazing, I know we can put beef on a steer. I mean, with our grazing program, grazing a lot of annuals and, high energy grasses and stuff other than just fescue. And that's it. So we bought some stockers, and that's how we kind of got in the beef business. But we just really didn't have the land base to do a grain operation on the side. So the beef just really seemed to go well with our size dairy, and that's kind of how all that transpired. You look back on it now, 12 years ago, and you're kind of wondering how in the world did you get here? But it's been quite a path for sure. But
do you guys both raise most of your own feed?
Our own forage, you grow grain too.
Yeah, we grow. I try to be 100% self-sufficient. It ain't happened, but that's our goal.
Well, and you've dealt with some drought over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
right?
That's right, and that really put the hurting on us. Yeah. So we were not only buying grain, we were buying forage at that time. So that put a financial strain on stuff, and because you put all them inputs out and then it doesn't rain, and then you turn around and have to buy the feed. It kind of sucks.
You're paying for it twice.
That's right.
When we make our own forage, but we buy some grain from Reedy Fort. George T's got the little feed mill. But then we bought a load of alfalfa from Robin Brecken.
That's good stuff.
And
Rocket fuel.
Yeah, now I like.
How many loads you getting this year?
No, I don't think I'm going to get any this year. We had plenty of feed, but we were a little short. But we made money with it. It was good stuff, man. That was incredible how good that feed was. I mean, you can't make quality feed here in the Southeast.
Oh, we've done a good job this year, we thought, with our feed, like really. And we took samples, and the guy was here yesterday. And we're like, well, looks like junk when we get the analysis, But,
yeah, especially when you go call the Organic Valley Feed Department and you get the numbers on some of that stuff. Then you look at what you're doing, you're like,
I don't know how.
Are we on a different planet, or what's going on?
It's the heat. It's our heat units.
Humidity, yeah.
That's the big
stuff goes to maturity so fast here.
I think we'd have to mow our alfalfa every 15 days.
That's right. That's right.
To get the numbers that they
really.
Get.
Yeah,
I swear, because we're at 28, 26 days, and we're 18% protein. RFQs. Most I got was like 140, 150.
Lignan's already 5-6% at 25 days here.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you got to be on the ball. And our best forages are coming like April. if we can make some stuff at knee high, ryegrass, that's our best bet.
Yeah, small grains and
Clover, early.
triticale and crimson clover, those kind of things. That's our best feed we make all year.
Right.
Everything else is down here. And that corn silage does well in this part of the world.
Yeah. But the stuff I need to be using for cover crops, I need to actually be putting it in the silo. So I'm kind of mixed on, I need to use it for cover for corn, and then we're, it kind of got mixed feelings on what to do. Because we got a bunch of cover crops planted, and the odds are they'll probably go in the silo instead of getting used for cover crop. But we've got a bunch.
Yeah, the one year we had the bad drought, we had we figured about 300 bales of baleage for cover crop, and then it turned dry right after that when we planted our corn. It's just like, well, I had enough feed for the winter back in the spring, but we used it. And if the conditions would have been right, it'd been fine. But
it's
risky.
Rain's what we need, and this year we had rain, and our corn did, it did really good with those covers. And we no-till our corn. We no-till corn this year. That was pretty impressive. And you've seen our corn.
Yep.
Really? Into rye or into a cover crop?
Into cover.
Rolled down?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and we're doing a lot more acres this year. But it was cereal grain rye and hairy vetch. And we're putting Austrian winter peas in it now. But what we'll do is we'll roll it. Last year we rolled May 15th and planted right behind it. Rolled and planted. And it looked like as if we sprayed it. It's dirt. I couldn't believe it. It took some convincing to get Dad to do it. We were like, no, we can't do it, and whatever, it ain't gonna work. But we did 10 acres, and it was the cleanest stuff we had.
10 acres, not close to the road.
That's right. Across the creek, nobody could see it. And then after it looked good, we had to take people over there. And this year, we're doing 22 acres right on the highway.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I've got it.
Let's get ready for the drought.
I've already got my irrigation figured out, how I'm gonna set it up. It's all we do irrigate here. We're pretty fortunate. But
with Traveler, or something?
It's Traveler right now. We've been pricing Pivot, and I almost bought one in the spring, and then it rained this year, so I'm kind of glad I didn't. But we're probably you never know how things go, but in the next few years, I hope to put some pivots in. And we looked at some subterranean irrigation, which you put like drip line under the ground, and that's pretty neat. I really like that. You're putting the water at the roots, and I really like it, but it's really expensive. And if you put a pivot up and you decide to quit farming, you can sell it. You put that stuff under the ground, it's there, and it makes me a little nervous.
How deep would that go?
So about 18 inches.
Okay. And
we don't work the ground that deep.
Right.
So, and we're trying to get more in no-till. I'm tired of working ground. I hate sitting on a tractor, and so we're trying to find more ways to no-till. That's the goal. And we used to, I never ran a disc. I've never ran a plow, none of that until we did the organic stuff. Never, ever. I didn't know how to do it, which sounds totally insane. We were probably the first ones in the area to no-till, back in the 80s, 70s, whenever it was. And then we were the first ones to start working ground again. So it's kind
of full circle.
Yeah, we're the first ones to go organic. So
that's all I did was work ground when I was a kid.
But I had to go to Grandpa.
5 years we didn't work ground.
I had to go to Grandpa, and I think he appreciated it. Is go to him and ask, how do you cultivate? How do you do this? How do you do that? And he's 90 years old. He's trying to explain to me how you're supposed to do this stuff. But I've never done it. So
because there's that generation gap. That your dad's generation that went as a kid, he did all the working the ground, then it switched to no-till. So kids your age.
That's right. I'm not a kid anymore.
I know, but you were at one time, long time ago. But so all the knowledge of how to cultivate well and all that got lost. Right. And now, there's a 30 years of farming knowledge that is just kind of chopped out that got lost because you're lucky that your grandpa was still alive and could talk to you about it. Not many people are fortunate enough to have that.
We have a lot of terraces still on our farm that my grandpa made in the 40s probably. Yep. And because this part where we are especially was a lot of tobacco, and the land would wash or red clay, and so they made a lot of terraces. Well, I've looked at it 100 times. Like, how do you even make a terrace? I mean, I have no idea. I mean, they follow the contour and all that, and I mean, everybody now just kind of tears them down. But then, my father-in-law, who's in his mid-70s, he'll come down and we'll ride around the farm. He's like, man, that's so great. Y'all still have terraces. That's saving groundwater. So you can kind of hear that voice from the past, talking about, understanding why they're there. And it's interesting.
Yeah, I think the no-till guys get rid of them because,
the equipment's so big.
That's one reason.
Yeah.
And, it just depends on how much organic matter they got on top of the ground and all that stuff. They got straight beans. They need to turn terraces because that ground wash is pretty bad. But,
Well, I see land that, that's being worked in the area, and that's the first thing we saw when we switched back over to organic is it becomes a big, hard, quick rain. Your evening thunderstorm that rains an inch in 15, 20 minutes, and you can ride around the neighborhood, and you can tell the no-till conventional guys, it's really built up a crust right under the ground.
That's right.
The water's just sitting on top of the ground. And then you go by our fields, and it's soaked in. Yep. And, I mean, really 2 or 3 tenths of rain, especially in a lot of pasture, you got that organic matter, will go a long ways versus you need a lot more water, farming the other way. Mm-hmm. So, I mean,
they need cover crops on it is what they need.
Well, and the ones that are doing that are doing well with them. But
we drove 7 hours to see you guys, and we came from Western Kentucky. And I didn't realize there was such a big there's a big grain industry in that area, and we were driving on the way, and it's just disgusting to see all the bare fields.
Yep.
And then you drive through these bare fields and you see all these washouts.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
and
they
then
need to have
looking,
cover out. That's what they need.
They
need
got
cover crops.
it's nothing. It's just brown.
And they're far enough south that they can get a cover crop in there.
You plant Thanksgiving, you can get it up and going.
Yeah, rye will grow. I mean, the germination is like 42 degrees or something for rye.
And what was kind of sad to see was these fields that were pretty flat. You thought, yet all that water collected in that one little swale and just made a serious washout.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
So because we always had grass waterways, even and still do. I mean, you find that place in the field that'll wash, and we'd sow it in grass, and you sacrifice some land there. But I mean, whatever, you're saving the soil that's there because we don't have much topsoil in this part of the world. If you got any at all, you better hold on to what you got and be trying to increase organic matter all you can.
What is the soil type around here? What would you have?
I can look it up. It's red clay, sandy, something. I don't
sandy
remember.
Sandy loam. It's like C and
I can't remember the name.
Can't remember the letters.
I don't know the technical.
Sandy loam, red clay.
Okay.
I mean, you get a little more sandy down here than where I am. I would say
probably
we're more towards the mountains.
And this land here, he was talking about tobacco up there. They used to grow a lot of cotton here. This is all cotton land. Bunches of cotton.
Yeah, and this whole part of the world was just absolutely mined back in the 1900s. I mean, late 1800s, early 1900s. Cotton and tobacco it's just a lot of poor land in this part of the world. And so, but we've got land that's been in pasture for 70, 80 years or maybe longer. And we started taking a little bit of it and trying to grow some crops on it. Mm-hmm. And it's just built up, and we grow phenomenal crops on some of that land. And so, you can tell wherever you've done a lot of grazing and you've got pasture, the fertility is just so much better.
you
organic matter under the soil,
right.
root systems.
But that pasture, it hung on to what was there,
right.
and it wasn't washed off the farm. Whereas the tobacco fields and the cotton fields, it's gone. And once it's gone, it takes a long time to build that.
It takes several generations. Yeah, I mean, really.
Right. So, our organic matter is higher than majority of people around here on this place, even on the ground we work and all that, our corn ground and stuff. We're running some 5% and stuff. Most people around here are running like 2, 1, all that.
Well, in a lot of agriculture right now, the soil is just a place to put the seed anyway.
Yeah,
They're
it's
not
a
looking
medium.
to, everything that crop needs is hauled onto that field.
That's correct. Well,
Yeah,
cover crops is
there's
a
no
big thing,
biology
man.
going on. That's right.
So, and with covers now, it's definitely the direction to head. In organics, we've been talking about it forever, and now it's the new thing in the conventional agriculture. I think it's kind of funny, to be honest,
Oh, they've got this great new idea.
Yeah.
No, that crap's been around a long time.
Right.
It just wasn't cool then.
That's right. And I'm a
Right.
dealer for a cover crop company. And so I'm in it a lot, going to some meetings and stuff.
It's be a good time to do a commercial, Chris.
It would, wouldn't it?
Well, are you seeing more sales coming
Yeah.
from? How long have you been a dealer?
3 or 4 years.
Okay,
Not
so-
long. But even last year, it really,
Picked up.
yeah. And I got to do something to make a little extra money. My wife needs more money.
First comment.
Yeah, she told me not to say anything. I better.
I'm counting. See how much money I can get out of this deal when we get done.
But no, it's the cover crop thing is really taken off because you put radishes out or turnips and a big mix. The more mix you can put out, the more roots it's got, and more different bugs it's feeding in the soil, and it just works out better. And conventional guys, if they put a little extra nitrogen out and extra phosphorus, potassium, everything, those cover crops are using it, and whenever you kill it in the spring, it's there,
Still
ready for
there.
the corn. It didn't leach out, it didn't wash off. It just makes sense.
And even if you put a cover crop in and it's too nice to plow down or whatever,
Yep.
you've still got all that biology in the
Yes.
root system. So it's not like, oh, well, I'm just going to feed my cover crop. You're still building soil even by taking a crop.
Absolutely.
Correct.
And if you got your clovers in there, especially you got the
Do you raise some alfalfa down here too?
Yeah.
Alfalfa does good in this climate?
No.
It looks pretty. It looks pretty. Yeah, it looks pretty, but it's just getting it before it matures is the hardest thing. I mean, like I said, you can have it pre-bud and it tests 5% in lignin easy.
So we're making like 6, 7 cuttings, but some of the cuttings in the middle of summer are not doing very well. If I can put water on it, then we do.
We used to do a lot better for some reason. I don't know if some of the, we're so limited on what varieties. Now there's all this Roundup Ready alfalfa. You just have to really, we're so limited on what the varieties we can put out. And we're just not having the luck with the newer varieties that we did with some of the old ones from way back. I mean, my great uncle was alfalfa specialist at NC State for decades. And, we grew great alfalfa for years, but we just hadn't had as good a luck the last 10, 15 years as we used to. And I don't know there's a lot of factors there, but
Yeah. I think we need more sulfur in our soil.
yes.
I think with the coal mines,
When they cleaned up the
acid-
factories, it
Yeah.
really made it hard for us to farm down here. We got rid of acid rain. Now we got to buy sulfur.
We see the same things in Ohio.
Yeah.
That since they
Big
cleaned up the
industrial.
plants on the Ohio River, you've got to add sulfur.
You do.
Ain't that crazy?
I know.
That's crazy.
That's true.
It
That
helps
old air
one thing,
pollution
but hurts.
really helped.
Boy, I really miss the days when we polluted the
We
air.
couldn't breathe, but our alfalfa grew well.
All the trees on the Blue Ridge Parkway were dead, but
But our alfalfa did good,
our
right?
alfalfa was great.
Do you raise silage
Yes.
for the herd?
Yep.
And your beef is all grass fed? Mm-hmm. And then all the grain you raise is for the dairy herd.
Yeah, I don't
Or-
the
or
buy,
I mean-
right. Yeah.
But you just raise corn silage. Is that
Well, we've always done sorghum silage,
sorghum.
and we cut it pre-boot.
okay?
But we have done some corn silage here, there, at times for the dairy herd. But the recent development in the last 2 or 3 years is the sorghum aphid has made it to this part of the world. So in August, the aphid just comes in and wipes out sorghum. So that's the new natural
Norm.
predator that we're dealing. Yeah, I think it's here to stay. So we're going to be switching back more corn silage. Well, although we figured out that millet and Sudan grass is not affected by the aphid, so we're having to do more of that, going back to corn silage, and I don't even know if we'll grow any sorghum this year because we can't spray it.
Mm-hmm. Well, even the conventional guys that spray it, they're spraying it with some bad stuff, and it kills everything. And then
it never really recovers.
That's
much.
right. The aphids come back in 30 days and with a vengeance because there's no ladybugs, there's no anything else to keep them away. Mm-hmm. So
it's a big problem. Yeah. So we're probably done with sorghum for a while.
I think if you plant like grain milo or something early, if we planted it,
plant early,
I think
but that would affect like the sorghum Sudan as well.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Certain ones. I think there's something that
millet and Sudan we hadn't had any problem, but
Sudan you didn't.
Sudan we did not.
Well, they wiped mine out.
Oh really? Sudan grass?
Yeah.
Not Sudex.
Well, I mean, it's the same family, but yeah, they wiped mine out too.
See, the Sudex we had trouble, but not the Sudan.
I had both. But I don't know. I had less problems where I had a mix.
The millet didn't have any. We didn't have any trouble with the millet. So that's kind of interesting. But they're bad. I mean, when they get there, they just pop up, and in 3 days the field's gone. I mean, they're aggressive. Last past year, it got in our sorghum, and literally. They were calling for rain the next day, and it was going to be about a 4 or 5 day rain spell. And we literally went out there and mowed it and followed the mower with the baler, and we just had to feed it because if we'd have waited till the rain was gone, we wouldn't have had anything to mow.
Well, y'all had less rain than we did this year. We had rain, y'all didn't.
Yep.
And we didn't have as many aphids this past summer as we did the one before. When we had the drought, when we have a drought, it seems to have more aphids. I think the plant's under more stress.
That would make sense.
But they're coming up from Mississippi, they're south.
Sugarcane aphid, I think.
Yeah, and they're just working their way up. So
I was going to say, we've never heard of that.
Oh, it's coming.
You'll get them.
It's coming. We're sending them your way.
We can load some up in the car.
It's like that.
You got stink bugs?
Stink bugs, yeah, they came from China.
We got those.
Good. I'm sure there's some in the office somewhere sitting around a corner.
The grass milk producers in my area have really, started with the sorghums for their silage, and there's a couple of varieties of the male sterile dry stalk that dries you can direct chop. Mm-hmm. So a couple of them tried that, and they really like it so far.
Yeah, I mean, we've had good luck with it. I like it. That's what I'm feeding right now, and along with our small grain, our triticale and ryegrass and silage. And I love it. It's just, I just don't know if we're going to be able to do it. Nature's going to allow us to do it in the future. So,
well, we were the same way. We used to plant a bunch, double cropping. Combine our barley going in, plant forage sorghum, and it done really well.
There was years even when we grew corn. If the corn didn't make, you could still plant sorghum in August and get a crop before frost.
Yeah,
not head it out, but it was. I mean, we found out that it's better quality for cows if you don't let it head out. If you get it before pre-boot, it's just a lot better feed, and so sorghum's always been a great safety valve. A lot more drought tolerant than corn. Loves hot, humid weather, which we have, a lot of here. So, I mean, humidity's 100% and it's 90 degrees. Sorghum's roaring. Mm-hmm. So, I love the crop. I'd plant, that's my first preference. But
how many acres do you farm?
Pasture and everything, we're getting on up towards 1,000, I guess, close to it, 800, 900.
And Chris, you're about the same size acre.
Right at 800. Mm-hmm. We own 350, I think. Yep, everything else is rented.
On the grass-fed beef, is that all organic or not? Is some of it organic, some of it isn't?
Right.
Is there a future, you think, in the grass-fed organic?
We have both lines. We were, I guess we got to come up with terms for all this. We were conventional grass-fed, I guess, for the first 10 years. And our farm and Jamie's farm, and we have 2 more that are certified organic. So in the past calendar year, I guess it was, or maybe it was the end of 2016. End of 2016, we started with our organic grass-fed line through some Whole Food stores in Charlotte. And so we're growing that part of the business now. My personal belief is that it is the future for grass fed, because what we're competing with now is, imported Australian, South American grass fed beef. I mean, that's our number one competitor. I don't compete with the guy down the road. I compete with, foreign countries that's bringing in imports, and it's killing us. And not many people are willing to take that next step to organic grass fed. And my personal belief is that the consumer's going to get so confused on what's what, that just having a certified organic grass fed product is going to be the sweet part of the cake or whatever. I mean, that's going to be the sweet spot of the industry.
Well,
So I think it's the future.
how are those foreign countries able to do it so much cheaper or bring it in cheaper?
Well, they have tremendous processing, and shipping's cheap. I mean, I was told that when the China economy slowed and, they could ship stuff across the water for like 8 cents a pound on the ship. And I mean, you can ship beef from Australia to the United States cheaper than I can haul it to our processing plant that we use 300 miles away. So we're paying $100. Yeah, we're paying $100 and some dollars a head in just our shipping cost to get the animal to the plant and back. And then where their processing costs are little to zero, we're $300, $400, $500 a head, depending on the size of the carcass. So, we're $400 or $500 down on an animal before. I mean, and you take that across the board, in a carcass, that's very hard to compete with. So, I mean, we're never going to touch them on price unless the dollar here weakens to the point that, the value of the dollar goes into that a lot. So you get into like international trade issues and that kind of stuff that's far beyond my control. So it's just, what I think the misleading thing though right now with the consumers is the way the laws are structured. They can bring in Australian product, and as long as it's packaged in the United States, the label on the package will say made in South Dakota or Colorado or whatever, and it's imported beef, but they're just putting it in a vacuum seal label package in the United States. So a lot of the consumers think they're buying domestic product, and they're not. And so until some of that's, I really do believe that the consumers would buy the domestic. I mean, there'd be some that's just going to buy the cheaper product no matter what, but there's a lot of consumers that I feel like would buy domestic if they knew that was the choice. And but the way things are structured right now, that's not the case. And so not many people is going to research the company that they're buying. They just want a particular product. There it is, grass-fed, non-GMO, organic, whatever it is. And so, that's where branding really becomes important. You can educate through the brand. And we feel like with, Hickory Nut Gap Meats is the name of our beef company, that hopefully that people can trust that brand and know that it's a domestic, regionally grown product, and you just try to get the word out. But, we're limited on marketing and that kind of thing, so we're not going to be putting any ads out on TV or whatever. So you do the best you can, but there's a lot of factors that go into it. I mean, it's truly impossible to compete with price point wise.
Well, it sounds very, very similar to what we're dealing with on the dairy side, except for it's not imported. At this point, it's not imported organic milk. It's the larger farms, large Western farms that are able to do things cheaper and put it into a private label product,
right? Yeah.
Versus putting it into a brand that people know is a small family farm supporting co-op. I mean, it sounds very similar.
Can we get controversial on this podcast?
Yes, please.
I was at an event back in the summer, and I'm not going to say where I was or who I was there for, but the lady gave a presentation on a product, and I'm just going to tell you what the product is because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but when she got done, I was like, that's the most misleading thing I had ever heard. I mean, it was like, well, we have no GMO.
It was for milk.
It was a milk product, and it was no non-GMO ingredients. And I'm sitting there thinking, the number one ingredient is milk, and you can't possibly label that non-GMO because it's not. It's just, they're eating GMO corn silage, they're eating GMO grains, but the number one ingredient is it says no GMO ingredients on the carton. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, now our Organic Valley products are competing with conventional products for the consumer that wants better for their family. And there's so much confusion at the marketplace. And so my key point is, and it kind of goes back to your question about, the certified organic beef. We really need to be put a lot of money and time marketing certified organic, USDA organic, and really having the consumers understand what that means. And whether it be Horizon and Organic Valley and Aurora, whatever companies, they really need to join together and push that label, because that's the one that, because people say, well, I'm getting non-GMO milk. Well, yeah, but are you against pesticides and insecticides? Yes. Well, you're still buying that product, or, we're getting grass-fed beef from Australia. What's their standards versus ours in the United States? They don't know the answers to those products. So the marketing has become extremely misleading, in my opinion, and it's really a threat to the small family farm, because like Organic Valley has put together, there's 2,000 roughly farms across the United States that are family, the farmer-owned cooperative that really our grazing standards. I think, what was it said on the call, over 50% was our grazing, our dry matter intake for our grazers versus, which is much higher than the USDA certified standards. And our producers care about what they do, and they care about the product itself and who they're doing it for. And these other companies are just, they're jumping on these key words, and they're finding out what's bringing, what the consumers want, whether it be non-GMO or local or natural or whatever. And there's all these words that are that have made the consumer really confused. So we really need to be pushing our USDA organic part of the label, because I think that's the key.
I'd 100% agree. The only problem there is that it's like you said, it's the companies that come in. Well, part of the reason they're coming in is because they're not gaining growth, or they're not having growth on their
they're going down.
Their original products, like I'm trying to think, Campbell's soup, for example. Their traditional tomato soup in the can that everybody knows isn't moving like it used to, because people don't want that product anymore. There's a large segment that wants non-GMO or organic, but the hard part is they may not have any idea what that even means.
Right.
And there's a lot of people. We're close enough in the industry to know what these different terms mean, but there's plenty of people that think that non-GMO is organic.
Right.
Well, we used to do direct marketing a little bit at the farmers market, with beef, and my wife and I, and we'd have folks come to our booth, and they just thought, just because they were going to a farmer's market, that every vendor there was organic. Mm-hmm. They had no idea that there was even you had to get certified. And so we watched guys that were selling green beans and tomatoes and sweet corn, and he'd look over there and see that we were organic, and we had a line of people at our booth, and he's like, well, all of a sudden he'd erase something on his sign and write organic on it, and he upped the price, and people would flock to him. But I was just like, this is a disaster. But it's truly how it is. And it's even done that way on a large scale at the grocers. So
I think the most misleading label out of all of them is, well, let's go talk about non-GMO, okay? Organics happened before GMOs came. Organics didn't happen because of GMOs. It happened because of the herbicides and the pesticides and the chemical fertilizers. So you go to the store, like we have to put non-GMO on the Organic Valley carton now, because people don't equate non-GMO with USDA organic.
And non-GMO won't accept certified organic in their.
No, not unless you follow, or they're non-GMO verified.
Really?
They won't accept organic.
Yeah, because there has to be testing on every farm for the non-GMO verified. There's a local dairy plant in Ohio does a glass bottle. He bought it. He is really involved with the non-GMO verified project. Took a non-GMO verified, upped the price a little bit, and it's bombing. It is not working out well because they always said they were non-GMO. All our feed is raised non-GMO was their advertising. Okay, people are like, well, they say all their feed is non-GMO. No, their raised feed is non-GMO. How much of their feed were they raising? You know, that's the misleading thing in marketing. And with the natural label, the only thing that the natural label means is probably naturally crap. I mean, there's no governing body or anything behind that natural. At the Ohio Organic Conference, one of the keynote speakers, they own a chain of 3. It's called Mustard Seed Market. It's Whole Foods came in and tried to buy them 3 or 4 times, and they said no. So Whole Foods said, we're putting you out of business, and are now building a store in between there too.
We dealt with Atlanta Fresh down here in Georgia. They were a grass milk product, and I got a chance to tour one of their dairies because we graze cattle some in Georgia. And I went to one of the dairies, and they were getting corn silage every day, and they were getting 8 pounds of grain while they were being milked. And I said, is this grass-fed, grass milk? Yes, sir. And I'm like, well, this isn't good, you know, but they were on pasture and they were grazing, and that's where they came out. I mean, a lot of their diet was coming from grazing and pasture, but, you know, they were supplementing with grain, but they were calling it grass-fed, and that's just so misleading.
Well, the grass-fed standards are coming, and that's actually one thing I
meant to
ask you. Are you, with your grass-fed beef, are you certified? Do you have some sort of certification?
We did AGA for a year or two until we realized they didn't even know what their standards were. It's just another place to spend money. And so we're just kind of, I mean, we have 100% grass-fed on our label, and we had to do label claims and paperwork. We have an affidavit that we have our producers sign when we harvest animals that goes to the processing plant. So we have our own program, but we're just kind of waiting it out till those standards are coming, and the quicker the better. Mm-hmm. And you know, I think it'll be kind of similar to USDA organic. There'll be I don't know if it'll happen the next few years now, but it's coming that there'll be a USDA grass-fed certification that you have to go through.
I think the new standards that they've come up with grass-fed are actually pretty good.
Pretty good standards. I've had a chance to look at what I think what's going to come out, and I agree.
Obviously, I'm coming from the dairy side,
right?
And I know the big pushback from the producers were the no grain ever. You know, to calves.
Right.
Well, I think to be successful, and we talked to a producer yesterday, in order to be successful with grass milk, I think it's paramount that the calves never get any grain.
You can't start them out because then
you can't build the rumen on grain and then not feed them grain when you're expecting them to milk.
Because their energy needs are. That's right. Well, and I think what we run across, and I think why grass-fed beef has such a bad reputation is that, you know, the problem's always been consistency with the product itself. And I've been on a lot of farms that, you know, I'm a buyer and go around and consult with grass-fed operations. And I've been to the guys that, well, my cattle are grass-fed because I don't do anything to them. Right. Well,
they look like it too.
Yeah, and their pasture quality is horrible. And, you know, there's the grass, there's no management on the pastures. The cattle are slender, and it's just like, no, this isn't what we mean by grass-fed. You may not be supplementing grain. I mean, they're putting minerals out or something, but you can't produce a high-quality product on pasture like that. You have to have rotationally grazing grass that has some the energy's coming off the top, whatever percent, so many inches off the plant. You got to have grass big enough to get that energy needs because, when you're 1,000, 1,200 pound animal, you think about us as humans, what we have to, eat to keep our body weight up, which obviously I have to do a lot of. But if you have a 1,200 pound animal, that's a lot of energy needs to keep that animal growing. And, pasture management is a big part. And I don't know if that'll be part of the standards or not. But I know when we're going out looking for new producers and that kind of thing, the first thing I'm looking at is the pasture itself and what kind of management they have. Because at the end of the day, with all this stuff, whether it's organic or non-GMO grass-fed, whatever it is, at the end of the day, and if a consumer, which I think we're very fortunate at this part in our, at this point in our society, that there are a growing number of consumers that do care how their food's raised, and they are wanting certain standards in how their food's grown. And I think that's an opportunity for us as producers, especially on a small family farm. But I also think that at the end of the day, when they sit down and eat, that they're going to want to enjoy what they eat, and they're going to want to enjoy that steak that they have, that they grill out that evening. They want to enjoy the milk that they drink, or the yogurts, or the butters and cheeses, whatever our products are. If they're not enjoying them, they're only going to buy it so many times where they finally like, well, this we tried this, but I sure like that other better. So when this is all done properly and the farmers are doing their part in the production model, you don't have to go out and sell it because the product's is superior. A good grass-fed steak is superior.
Yeah.
But how many people have ever had one?
A well-raised one.
Right.
Because you're exactly right.
The ones that weren't raised properly is the worst steak you ever eat.
Exactly.
It's like eating a Red Wing shoe.
That's exactly right.
The flavor might be good,
but you can't chew it.
Yeah.
Too tough.
That's what a lot of people who might have eaten grass-fed 10 years ago. Okay?
Right.
They ate that steer that was on a permanent pasture and had really good grass for about 3 weeks in May.
Or came from a range in Australia.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have much grass over there.
Sage.
Sage, is that what it is?
But, that was their experience with grass-fed. So they equate grass-fed to an animal that's just thrown on a pasture and not managed.
Yep. A Holstein steer didn't get fed right.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And
Holstein steer is good.
I just raise a couple steers a year,
right, yeah.
and it's grass-fed. But I don't have a dairy herd to feed the best feed to, so it goes to my steers, and there is it's the same difference in, I think, meat quality and the feed quality, same as the milk production to a cow is with feed quality.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because instead of dropping in milk production, you're dropping in meat quality.
That's right.
You can't feed a steer sawdust and molliflora roses and expect to have good meat.
We're doing a study right now with Clemson. I think it's still ongoing. They're grazing some cattle for us, and we have Dr. Susan Duckett's a meat scientist at Clemson, and we're testing the CLAs and the omega-3s, but also tenderness and those kind of. And it's been our conclusion, that the farm, that if you're not gaining 2 pounds a day per head in a grazing model, the meat quality is not going to be where it needs to be.
And you're able to do that.
Yes, we're doing that. we're averaging about 2 to 2.25 pounds a day. But if you start getting down into a pound, half a pound a day, the meat quality, there's a huge difference. So a lot of your feedlot steers, 16 to 18 months, are weighing 13 to 1,500 pounds with an 800-pound carcass, where we're at 20 months with a 11 to 1,200-pound steer and a 6. We're already at a disadvantage, even doing a number one job on pasture management. But if you get a 1,000 or 900,000 pound steers as a 2-year-old that has the capacity and the genetic potential to be a 1,300 pounder, that meat quality is going to be extremely poor.
Well, I've been saying that grass fed is at the same place as organic was 15 to 20 years ago.
That's right.
Those folks that started off, certainly not all of them. There's some top-notch original 15 to 20 year ago organic producers, but a lot of them were organic by neglect, and it was just a way to keep the farm going. And I think that's the same thing on the grass-fed side today. You got a lot of these guys that are able to put a label on that's 100% grass-fed, but the way that they're raising those animals, if it's beef, is like we were talking on no pasture management. Just throw them out on a 50-acre field and they're there all summer, and then it doesn't taste very good. I've had some of that.
Oh, absolutely.
It's terrible.
Yep.
And I've had some good stuff, and it's phenomenal. So I think there's a lot to learn, and it's good to hear you're doing some of that research.
Yeah, we feel like we have to, and we're not. When we haven't been perfect. I mean, a big drought can affect your meat quality. I mean, that's what made feedlot such an attractive system. You could feed a high amount of controlled environment, exactly, and that's what makes the consistency there. Although there's genetics are so far apart, and especially in the beef world. I mean, there's huge difference between a Brahma and a certified, purebred Black Angus for meat quality. But
the purebred Black Angus is not a nice guy to have around.
It can be, it could be wild.
But he is delicious.
He is delicious, and you're always glad to make him that way. But I mean, it's huge. It's huge difference there for sure in the quality.
Because one thing I would really like to see down in the future with grass-fed beef is the opportunity to do it with dairy steers, simply because of all these organic bull calves that are being born are being sold to veal barns and whatever as newborns, because there's there's maybe a tiny little market, but not for a 100-cow dairy that has 50 bull calves a year. Right. Those are all just going out of organics. So.
And I think your crossbreeds would do extremely well. I mean, some of these Holsteins that could be 17, 1800-pound mature cows, be hard to do it on grass. But
but I think if there was a market for those crossbred dairy steers, like Chris, you might go and take your bottom third of your herd that you don't want offspring out of, and you would breed them to an Angus, and you get that crossbred vigor, and you could raise some really nice dairy half crossbred dairy steers. Oh, yeah. That's what I would really like to see markets come available, because I think that could help the diversity of the farm on the small family farm, and it would value add to that bull calf that. Well, right now he's not worth much.
No, and you'd be surprised. I mean, people, first thing they ask you when dairy is, what do you do with your bull calves? Seems to be like the most popular question of all. You're like, well, I don't know. We raise them, and when they come off their mamas, we sell them. And it'd be tremendous if we could keep that animal on the farm. I mean, we're doing it with beef genetics right now, but we are having those discussions because there's more and more of these Farm Burgers, one company that there's 12 stores now that's an all grass-fed hamburger joint. And
where's this one?
They started in Atlanta. There's one in Asheville. There's 12 of them altogether. I think Greenville, South Carolina.
Y'all are supplying them, is that right?
We supply the one in Asheville, and we're looking to do the whole chain.
Are there any that are north of?
There's a lot of them, and there's one in Greensboro named. There's one in Greensboro, but
one on the way home.
If that's the trend, and there's going to be more and more of those, how are you going to supply that market? And I think that's exactly how you could do it with these dairy bull calves and steer them and put them in a grass-fed program. That would be a tremendous. A lot of people don't realize dairy genetics are some of the best beef out there. The reason they're not as popular is because they don't bone out as well, and they're not as profitable from a carcass to yield carcass standpoint. But meat quality, a well-raised dairy animal is some of the best tasting meat out there. And I think there's huge potential there. It's just, and that's where this whole industry is, whether you're talking about milk, beef, we're just looking at this table, and there's this huge puzzle that somebody just dumped out of the box, and all the pieces are there, but it's just up to all of us to put it together to make a pretty picture. And that's where it all is. dairy is definitely way ahead of the meat industry from that standpoint right now. But it even maybe poultry. You know, organic eggs are pretty easy to come across, and there's some pretty good production models there. But I would argue pork still got a ways to go, and beef has definitely got a ways to go.
You know, it's really disappointing to me when you go to like a high-end burger joint, $14, $15 burgers, and there's no organic burger on the menu and there's no grass-fed burger on the menu. Because if I'll pick a grass-fed burger every time. Hardy's had the all-natural...
From Australia.
Was that from Australia?
Or Uruguay or Paraguay, yeah.
It was really good,
it was good, though. That's right.
But that is what I look for when I look in a burger joint. I look for either the organic or the grass-fed. And I'll go for the grass-fed.
And I bet you in New England, that's a lot easier to find. There's certain parts of the country that are California, and that's how all this works.
Down here is not, the organic.
It's coming.
Grass-fed.
I mean, they're growing
but,
fast. It's coming.
Now, the people that do purchase it down here are the ones that have came from.
That's right. Or your more urban areas.
That's right. Yeah, right here where we're at is,
where I live. If you try to sell organic grass-fed beef at your break-even number, you couldn't move it.
Correct.
I mean, it's the target consumer is not there. The target consumer is in Columbus, Ohio. He's in Cleveland, Ohio. He is in the upper middle class in the big cities.
And we're relying on Charlotte, Raleigh, Asheville, Greenville, South Carolina.
Well, and that is what, right here where we're at, we can go 10 miles in any direction, be in town. Large towns. And so that is what's going on. There's people, everything is growing. But right here in the little farming community is where I'm saying everybody's kind of like whatever.
But a lot of people grew up on gardens and raising their own. And I don't know, I don't think there's as many people doing it now as it used to be. But they were getting good food.
Oh,
you know what I mean? But I was amazed. I hadn't bought meat from the grocery store in over a decade. And we ran out. I wanted the processor. And we picked up a little something from the local grocery, and I was just like, ugh. I mean, it wasn't good. And I can't eat an egg,
You crack that egg in the pan, it's like,
all over. And you go to, Waffle House saved my life many a times in college. And now if I eat breakfast at Waffle House, I'm sick. You know what I mean? There's no nutrients. Thank you, Waffle House, for saving my life.
Is that what you're saying?
It was just like a do or die thing.
I don't think it was the eggs that made you sick. I think it was what you did before.
No, it was good then. Now it makes me sick.
Oh, okay.
But we got our own eggs right there in the backyard. We go out there and gather them, and they're all for organic feed, and they're out on. We turn them out during the day, and those
that kind of thing is
good.
Coming back.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
We used to deliver meat to a little buying club down in Fort Mill, South Carolina, and it was a housing development. And I mean, literally, the houses were feet apart, close to. But there was chickens all over the place. People had their little backyard chicken operations, and that was the one thing that they could raise themselves. They had enough little bit of land there that they could raise their chickens, and they have like a little herb garden or maybe 2 tomato plants. But I was like, it's really neat that interest is coming back. And surprisingly enough, a lot of the younger generation's what's driving this, and so, which makes you feel like that there's a really good future for what we're doing. But just like anything else, how do you police it? Because there's always those that they just try to. There's the farmers that take advantage. They're looking at marketing and what's the consumer want and try to take advantage of that. And there's the ones that really believe in what they're doing. And so that's where branding comes in, associating yourself with those companies.
But I think the awareness of where your food comes from is higher now, or the younger generation, the millennials.
Absolutely.
They want to know where their food comes from. They want to have a couple of chickens maybe, and they're taking an interest in gardening a little bit, because the sense of accomplishment from raising something in your garden or raising your own animal is is missing from our society, and it's coming back. And I think it is a really exciting time for the farmers right now, because there are questions being asked. How is this raised? The new animal care standards. Okay, they're going to be hard, but if you look at that from the positive angle, that's good that the consumer is actually asking, because for years the consumer didn't care. If it was cheap, I'm going to eat it.
Well, I think the hard part for the farmer on that is not the practices themselves. It's oh man, more paperwork, and I got to document this now, versus a lot of our farms, especially in our co-op, I wouldn't worry too much about the animal standards from the farm practices themselves, but the paperwork that we're documenting. But you know what? We're in the world of documentation now. Every industry out there, like you think about healthcare, education, construction, whatever, everything is documented, inspected, and agriculture, we're going to be doing it too, and it's just what we got to get used to doing. So,
well, you guys have a small business, and now you're being treated as a small business. I mean,
well, you see all those papers over on the desk and stuff that need to be filed away and everything else, and well,
I think what's harder for us is that we're not an industry that. So our industry don't get to say, well, I've got to hire a secretary to file this paperwork, do this stuff. Well, I'll just go up 50 cents a pound on my product so I can hire this new employee. We don't do that. We're a production system where we're basically getting paid whatever we get told we're going to get paid. And so I still think there has to be some sort of dialogue, and I don't know if the general public understands what we face as producers. So I mean, I'm out working on my farm all day long, and then doing emails and paperwork till 11 o'clock at night, and back up at sometimes 4 in the morning to try to get emails out before I go to the barn in the morning. And I can't afford to hire somebody to do that. And so was it John F. Kennedy said, the farmers are the only people that buy everything retail, sell everything wholesale, and pay the freight both ways. Yeah. And then that's still true today. And so that the business model itself, very accurate. And there's the financial plumbing for agriculture is dead wrong. We're the only all your private equity people, or the banks, you take out a loan, you start paying it back. Well, in investment opportunities, if some joint venture capitalist was to invest in the business and in the real world, then you're given an opportunity to start getting return on your investment, then pay the money back. Well, we don't have those types of opportunities. Well, they're starting to come available, but there's also this distrust from rural America versus to Wall Street or banks and that kind of thing, and there's this disconnect there. And so what does everybody do? They go to farm credit, because that's what we've done for the last 50 years or whatever. So there needs to be if all these trends continue, and this is going to be the new way. Well, at the end of the day, agriculture still has to be profitable, and for it to survive, and for the consumers to get the foods that they need or that they're wanting for their families. Then they're going to have to pay for it, and there's going to have to be a commitment there. And I think there is. People are willing to pay more for food than there was. But I also think that there has to be a conversation that goes with the financial plumbing as well, because we really need to study the business models of small farms, and there needs to be a lot of work to help improve that.
Mm-hmm. So, and I think those opportunities, like you said, they're coming. I mean,
they're coming. There's more interest in now than there ever been.
Yeah. Because I mean, the way I see it is the farm credits of the world, the institutions that have traditionally given money in the agriculture world, they only know what the university production model is. And
what are they switching to more of? Home loans. I mean, all of them are like, well, yeah, I'm going to switch over here because, but the universities are dictating. That's right.
So then that means there's got to be an educated group of private investors, and they're coming around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys,
What else you got?
you got anything else you want to share with the rest of the world?
All 100 people
Chris
that
was
might
supposed to
listen.
tell a joke, right?
Was I? Suppose I can make up something.
Well, we've
Start-
enjoyed it.
Start telling about times you went to the bar in
All
Well,
right.
now the editing starts. We appreciate y'all guys coming down here,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it's always good to discuss these issues. And I've always enjoyed, talking to people from other parts of the country and realizing that, oh man, we're not the only crazy people in the world in the South. So there's nut jobs everywhere else in the country too. So
You know what's really neat with traveling around to different regions talking to farmers? It doesn't matter. At the heart of it, they're all the same.
Oh, yeah.
They're just dealing with something. I work with farmers from Amish to you guys, which that's at the other end of the spectrum. But you're all in this to try to make a living for the family and have the next generation interested in continuing the farm.
Right.
That's kind of what it's about, and to provide a wholesome, good product for the consumer at a price that you can make a good living. And
Yep.
it's really, I find it really exciting to see some of the positives that we could focus on the negatives and probably sit here for 3 hours, but that's not going to be very constructive.
right, that's right.
Correct.
But I really appreciate you guys taking the time. I know you're busy, and we drove cross country to get here, and I'm really glad we did. So
Take the cold back with you. We're looking forward to
I'm ready for
a
spring.
warming trip.
I'm ready for spring too. So.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.